Hello and welcome to CX Today. My name is Charlie, and today I'm delighted to be joined by Martin Taylor, Deputy CEO at Content Guru. Martin, thanks once again. Thank you very much once again for joining us today. How are you doing?
Great. Good to be with you again, Charlie, and looking forward to another interesting discussion.
Absolutely. Today we're going to be discussing video in the contact center and kind of the broader implications for customer experience. And this is a topic, that we've been speaking about for many a year, and it was always kind of expected to be the next big thing in contact centers. But that kind of real big explosion never really quite happens. So I think maybe before we get into all the kind of exciting new use cases and possibilities, I'm going to start by asking you, why do you think that video has not yet seen its kind of day in the contact center?
Yeah, well, I've been in this business for a long time now, since the 90s. And when I first started, even then it was pictures, picture tell. That was the big new thing. It was going to be video conferencing, and it's really going to be the next big thing. It's just around the corner. And that's kind of evolved through a few generations now. The camera phone was going to be the thing that did it. Having more Wi-Fi in more places was going to do it. But really, it never really took off. I think for a couple of reasons. One, hassle, really, because the consumer doesn't want extra bother. So initially, the hassle meant devices, a special TV in a special room, maybe, to have a booked conference that was on video. So sometimes it was worthwhile, maybe if you're doing some kind of big deal signing or something, but usually it wouldn't be worthwhile. And then I suppose the bar was lowered as more devices became available. But again, it was a bother. I had some of those first generation camera phones, and the 3G networks really weren't up to it in spite of the claims at the time. You had to use difficult apps. Sometimes you had to have the same device at either end in order to have the conversation. So just barriers really that prevented people being able to easily access this technology. Say Wi-Fi networks were really slow and glitchy. So a lot of that went away really over the course of the pandemic, when I suppose people were forced to use video a bit more. We couldn't communicate as much face to face. And networks evolved. Lots of us got better Wi-Fi at home because we needed to work there. 4G became ubiquitous, replacing 3G. So the kind of hassle factor at the device and network level went away. We learned kind of how to use these technologies a bit in our private lives. And then I suppose it was a question of how can we adopt that in our communications with organizations. So organizations had always been keen on kind of siloed devices. There's even now people using things like Good Sam, perfectly good video product, or maybe for location using what 3 words. Organizations like these things, but consumers not so much. So they don't want to break off from having a discussion in order to have some kind of separate thread, or worse still, download an app. I think most apps are still only used just over one time, so 1 point something or other. So I don't know if it's the fact you've got to download an app to show a picture of your boiler to your housing association that one time, it's probably not quite going to do it for you. Whereas obviously if you can just switch over in the middle of a conversation, do the video bit and then get on without breaking flow, then I think you've got the convenience. So I think I would say that it's really hassle is what's held video back. Too much hassle in its various forms over the years.
Yeah, it's interesting actually as well. If you take it from kind of the company's perspective itself, in terms of, it might have had to previously kind of choose instead of going through their traditional CCaaS vendor, maybe go through a separate vendor, and then they kind of have this boxed off solution where the data doesn't flow into the rest of the contact center. And that the data they get from those conversations doesn't also come in. So as well from the business and customer experience, but I think you laid out lots of great reasons there as to why it's also not made its move in terms of kind of, despite kind of the rise of the smartphone, the rise of better network quality, the better interoperability between devices. So I think there's lots of really good stuff there. And despite it not kind of having its boom, there are industries starting to lead the way with these new advances in video technology. So I think it would be interesting maybe to kind of ask you kind of which industries do you see leading that charge, and what are some of the use cases that they're using that are seeing.
Well, you're right in that video in and of itself isn't really going to do it. I think it probably would have already if it was going to be the big standalone technology. I mean, it's got its uses, but I think its best use is as part of an integrated contact environment where, crucially, the picture part adds value. So it's either going to reduce call time, it's going to result in getting things resolved quicker, so driving up the first contact resolution. And I think in some arenas, some verticals, it's kind of landed first. And I suppose the big ones being healthcare. If you again go cast your mind back to the pandemic, and doctors didn't want to catch COVID by seeing patients. Patients couldn't travel, but yeah, they had these devices that could have a video call. And at the same time, some were able to take advantage of contact centers as contact center technologies, I suppose, that had integrated video already. And so they were able to go from a voice call to a video consultation easily and quickly. So really it came out of the urgent care space and primary care within healthcare. Initially, it started as one-way communication. The doctors were all a bit shy. They didn't want to be seen. And then after a couple of months, they worked out the patient likes to see the doctor as well. So we were asked to go from just one-way front-facing camera to kind of two-way video comms, and then doing the black background blurring and these sorts of things that we've got used to in kind of regular video conversations that we have. So certainly in the UK, where I'm based, the NHS was a big adopter of that. They sped through approvals mechanisms, so we cut down a lot of the testing and validation that we had to do to a much smaller and tighter feature set. So that's good. And again, healthcare continues to be a beneficiary of video tech. Probably the next one that we've moved on to is police. So we work in police. I think we're the only cloud contact center in policing, actually, in emergency services generally. So again, police have the advantage of wanting to have this emergency service, but with a bit of extra information being conveyed. So whereas in health, it might be what the rash looks like, your kind of general state of pallor and ill health. In police, it could be that we've got maybe a 999 call in a contact center, and we're upgunning that to a video stream. So that video of the scene right there immediately into the control room. So of course, once you've got that video, it can go into evidence management. It can be sent to officers on their way to the scene, on their mobile data terminal, in the vehicle. We're making sure we've got the right resource. You're going to find this particular horror scene when they arrive there. So then there's a lot of value there. And if you think about the evidential part as well, it's not just CCTV. Police go looking for dash cam footage. They go looking for doorbell footage. Body cam footage is a big part of evidence management now. We probably saw was that one police force lost 3 years of body cam footage. It's jeopardized dozens of cases. So this kind of video evidence, which we can capture from millions of citizen camera operators who are reporting these kind of incidents, that's invaluable to police. So I think those two are the kind of leading ones. Probably, if you look beyond there, anyone with a kind of in the field element is going to be up for this as well. Think about insurers. So you have a knock, you want to send some pictures from the scene of the state of things. That will help in perhaps the insurance company establishing the first notification of loss so that they can take charge of sending the tow truck and maybe dealing with a courtesy car for maybe the guy you've crashed into, so the local tow truck merchant doesn't take control of the scene, and costs start to escalate. So really, any of those kind of people are out in the field type of situations. Could be utilities, could be your broadband provider. This is the box. Those two lights are showing. That means you need to resync it with that other box over there. Could be the boiler for your housing association. Might be a university. Could be things going on in your student halls. You could be really any provider of large-scale rental accommodation. So I think all of those kind of use cases where we need to broadcast from the scene, or bring an expert in the back office to the scene and resolve something there and then. I think that's kind of meeting that criterion of being useful. So video's got to add value, either because it's broadcasting some urgent events from the scene and conveying lots of extra information to the organization, or else it is providing a kind of expert fix to a service for the consumer. In both cases, it just makes it much more likely that that consumer is definitely going to use their device and that video capability. The fact that you could do something in tech has never been a reliable indicator that consumers will actually do it. Just look at 3D TV. Think of all the work that the TV manufacturers put into their 3D televisions. The shops were full of them. No one really needed a 3D TV, but industry hadn't stopped to ask. Whereas now I think we've kind of got some proper use cases, some benefits for the consumer as well as the organization. And so I think you've then passed the point, given the ease of use, where video is now ready for more widespread adoption.
Yeah, I think there's lots of really great stuff there. And I'll start by thanking you for at the beginning of your answer saying the point around the benefits of integrated video within the CCAS suites much more coherently than I did. But I also think the policing example was particularly fascinating. I've seen it myself, maybe in utilities, how it can work, bringing in kind of the boiler engineer as an example that you said, and kind of healthcare. I think a lot of us have experiences in that. But I think those kind of new era use cases within policing through actually contentguru itself, kind of leading the way in that. I think those are particularly fascinating, and it will be maybe interesting now to look at some of the sectors that have the potential to benefit from video, but haven't been as quick to adopt it yet. Is there any that maybe come to mind, and what possible use cases do you see out there for them?
Yeah, well, I see obviously healthcare and police as the two early adopters. I think the next ones to follow are going to be insurers, utilities, service providers, anyone with lots of consumers who are in the field in one way or another, where those devices that they've got can connect back through the contact center to the subject matter experts and deliver their expertise to the scene in order to resolve a query of any kind quickly and easily. So any kind of large-scale housing provider, housing association, local authority with council housing stock, a university with halls of residence and student flats, all where you've got these distributed populations who need things occasionally. Not enough to warrant having some kind of app, but when they have a problem, they want it sorted quickly. And the organization with its contact center, if it can now plug that straight into the people who can fix the problem there and then on that first contact, without the need for an appointment or let's make a booking for the engineer to come next week. All of that sort of thing, which is expensive as well as inconvenient. Those are great use cases for where video can really add value to that contact center.
Yeah, and I think that continues very well actually on from kind of the ones where we're seeing value now, and kind of where we can possibly kind of extract further value from video, and in helping extract that further value, we're seeing many kind of more multimedia capabilities being added to the video channel, such as kind of sorry, not to the video channel, just multimedia capabilities coming and adding more kind of context into the contact center and helping service agents like video does. I'm thinking sort of kind of images through new imagery and geolocation and new features like that, and how they can kind of help to differentiate brands. Just how powerful do you think those features, kind of in addition to video, can possibly be?
Yeah, I mean, video, whilst we've established is powerful in itself, if we add some of the other capabilities that particularly the mobile device that the consumer has in their hand can provide to the contact center and the organization, then it starts to kind of bulk up the value of this capability. So still pictures are very useful, for example. So it needn't be that the picture is moving. Sometimes you can get, even from quite a low bandwidth type of environment, you can send a good quality photograph. It could be of the rash, of the broken boiler, of the bent fender, and then you can just send that up. Also, any other type of file, really. But I think one of the big ones that we're seeing is the geolocation. So I mentioned earlier separate applications like what 3 words, which are very good. But in a situation, particularly a stress type situation where something's going on in the moment and you need to establish quickly where somebody is in order to get them help, or just to steer them to the right person or the right organization that's going to help them where they are, being able to get a very accurate GPS fix on where they are. So where they are within the building, the playground between the 2 streets, where they are in a field or next to a canal. So all these kind of places that don't necessarily lend themselves to a postcode or a street name. You're driving along, who knows what junction you've just passed. You weren't really paying attention, but now you've broken down. So we need to get to you, and now we can see you're between junctions 11 and 12 on the westbound carriageway, and we're just by that bridge there. So the people that are coming to help you will know exactly where to come. So that geolocation, simply established by clicking on a link on a text message, it's then there on the screen for the contact center agent that can then be forwarded to anyone that needs to know. And actually, we're seeing that often now that the video stream contains that link with the geolocation at the bottom of the same picture. So you not only can be talking to the person, but you can see exactly where they are, just adding a bit of color. So generally, pictures and location, I would say, are the big things there.
Yeah, it's quite interesting actually. I think for myself, I've had a previous experience where I broke down on one of the bridges going across from England to Wales once, and they sent an engineer to the wrong bridge. So just
Easily
having
done.
that feature could have saved hours, and I mean, in terms of fuel costs as well. It would have saved actually the organization lots of money. So that was one I particularly related to. And also, I could have sent images of my problems, and perhaps there was a way in which I could have solved it without having an engineer come out in the first place. So I think those features are really, as you mentioned, as you highlighted, adding in more kind of context for agents to kind of to use and benefit our customer experiences.
Yeah, I think actually the agent is a good point, because we always talk about the consumer and the customer experience, but the agent and their experience of how they work, I think increasing the kind of ease with which they can carry out their jobs is valuable as well. I mean, agents become agents usually because they want to help people. So they get frustrated when tools aren't there for them to help people, or they're not able to resolve the query. So I think if we can just transition seamlessly from just a call to getting something fixed, and you're kind of resolving that as the agent in that first contact, you're going to feel pretty good about that level of empowerment. So I think that is an extra aspect that we've got to consider when we're looking at the value of video and some of these extra multimedia elements.
Yeah, and I guess as well in the example that I gave, just how much simpler it would have been for the agent if we had such a capability, because I wouldn't have had to phone back and they wouldn't have had to kind of establish how the mistake was made and sort of have that panic factor too. So I think it's also interesting, as you mentioned, to look through the gauge of the agent experience. But I kind of just want to follow, or maybe with the final question, just about we've had this look at the possibilities of where video can go with these new features, with these new industries taking it on. It'd be interesting to hear kind of from your kind of vendor perspective how you're evolving your video solution to continue improving these customer experiences of the future.
Yeah, of course. Well, for us, customer experience is king. The agent experience is important as well. And we look at the organization experience. So really the kind of key word that our customers are bringing us is we want efficiency. So we want productivity gains. We've got to drive out friction costs. So a lot of that is places where the contact center can really add a lot of value. So if we can reduce the time to sort things out, if we can reduce truck rolls to the wrong location, if we can avoid sending the engineer when the engineer could sort it out without leaving their desk in that first contact. Time is money, not just for the consumer, but for the organization. So we're always looking as a vendor at how can we make things quicker, more efficient, more effective, more enjoyable place to work, reduce churn, reduce the cost of onboarding new people, cut down training time and so on. So we're always looking at how can things be more intuitive and just work better. So we've got this product Stormlink, which is what we introduced during the pandemic to do video. So we've been working really to enhance Stormlink. In fact, the new version of it's just recently gone into general availability. So it's not just got video now, it's got front and rear camera video these days. Also doing stills, we're doing file uploads, and we're doing that all-important location sharing. So a geolocation without needing to install any kind of app, know anything at all other than how to click on a link in a text message, which absolutely everyone knows how to do. I think 97% of smartphones in the UK, or rather 97% of mobile phones in the UK are smartphones. So it's pretty much ubiquitous. Everyone can share that kind of information now. And if they know that they're going to get a better service, a faster response, maybe a first contact resolved, then they will do that because they realize there's a benefit to them. The hassle factor is almost nil, and they're going to be on their way that much quicker. So I think the Stormlink being an integral part of our contact center as a service proposition just makes it easy to adopt, easy to learn. You don't really need an instruction manual or some extensive extra training in how to use it. It's just the same kind of behaviors that all the hundreds of thousands of agents who work on Storm today will already know how to do this. It's just maybe an extra button or two on the interface. And then probably the other aspect is linking that back to those sectors that are either adopting video or are in that kind of next wave that we talked about. So healthcare and police, for example, we're already there. We're doing 999, 112, 101, 111, those kind of urgent and emergency services where which are the low-hanging fruit really for video. So we're already in a lot of these places. In fact, as far as I know, we're the only contact center as a service platform doing 999 emergency services. And then if you look into the utilities, the insurers, a lot of those are our customers already. So that means we can roll this out into a lot of places very quickly, and hopefully then you're getting some really good use cases that will encourage others to kind of adopt as well and increase the competitive advantage, or maybe close up the competitive advantage that these early adopters have got. Because I think if you have video, if you have these multimedia capabilities, and you can just switch seamlessly from your normal contact center omni-channel experience into these extra ways of communicating without booking anything without appointments, installing apps, extra hassle for the consumer or extra training for your agents, you're going to have an advantage over those organizations who haven't got that capability.
Yeah, and there was an excellent case study actually that I read with Content Guru and how you kind of helped the NHS to implement video in what is, I imagine, one of the most complex infrastructures imaginable, and how it was able to kind of make that a smooth process there. So I'll add a link into that one below in the description box below. But Martin, it's always really great speaking to you. I think we covered lots on video there, and it was a great conversation. So thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you, Charlie. Absolute pleasure.
Excellent. And also, I'd like to thank everybody for watching. Bye for now.